Back with you, Thursday edition of the program on remote today. First Rule Film and Broadcast Studios, high above the Galleria here. Normally home to the McGraw Show every day, but Kilcoyne Kearney slumming here until 3 o'clock. It is beautiful, and it's a great day, and we've got a great view of it here up high over the Galleria. We'll get into our WTFs a little later, maybe some Hollywood. Reminder to all of our Mizzou fans, because we are the home of the Missouri Tigers. Their game this weekend with Vanderbilt, they're trying to stripe the stadium at Faurot Field. And I don't know how they're going to coordinate this. I mean, we can barely get 3 people in the same room at the same time. But they're asking everyone to go online, Gary Pinkel's website, the Mizzou website, and depending on what section you're in, you either wear black or gold. So the entire stadium will have the stripe effect. They're trying to pull this off. This is going to take a lot of coordinating. It might be easier. Just give everybody a gold T-shirt if they're in that section, black T-shirt if they're in that section. But if you can go online, check it out. I'm sure mutigers.com, Gary Pinkel's website. They're asking for a concerted effort here to stripe the stadium. So if you're going to the game, you have tickets, check out your section and find out if you're wearing black or gold. There's our public service announcement. Also the poll question at ktrs.com. Current favorite talk show host, Ellen, Kimmel, Fallon, Stewart, Maury, the reigning champ, or other. We brought that up, and we do it every once in a while, but it's National TV Talk Show Host Day, but you knew that already. Joining us in studio, Rafer Weigel, my colleague over at the 2 Fox, and current anchor for the 6 p.m. and 10 p.m. news, working alongside Sandy Miller. Rafer, welcome. Good to see you.
Thank you for having me on.
I think it's been mentioned a time or two. You're from Chicago.
Yeah, we've mentioned
we wore that out a little bit.
We did. I don't really know why, because it doesn't help my street cred here at all.
Well, in fact, producer Kyle last week, so you and I were on the air together when the Cardinals season ended in a rather horrific fashion. Yeah. And I was among the Cardinal fans in the tank and saying, why did he do this? Matheny, why did you put that? And you were more
I'm like, hey, what are you guys nuts? This is awesome. 2 years in a row, 3 years, however many years, 5 years in a row. You guys are always in the postseason. We were hoping for not losing 100 games up north. Oh, we didn't lose 100 games. This is great.
We were spoiled. So producer Kyle the next day said, hey, tell the guy from Chicago, okay, we got a higher standard here. He said he was being too nice. He said, he's the new guy. You don't want to be too mean.
No, I mean, listen, I got nothing. The last thing a Chicago sports fan can ever do is talk smack. That's it. I mean, you got the Blackhawks, but you know what? You haven't always had the Blackhawks. The Blackhawks are a recent phenomenon. 4 years ago, Chicago Stadium had 5,000-6,000 people in it. You know, I mean, it's now become, you know, the team to follow in Chicago, but it wasn't always that way.
I like to say they went from Wirtz to first, because when Bill Wirtz died, the franchise, and granted his family's still involved, but the franchise got better, sadly, or maybe not so sadly, after his death. So Chicago guy, you grew up north suburbs, and you were involved in theater really at an early age. And I know on the Wikipedia doesn't always tell the truth.
Oh boy!
Now it has you loosely connected to John and Joan Cusack, Jeremy Piven.
Yeah, Joan Cusack was my first acting. Well, here's the bottom line: I tried to be an athlete, and I just, you know, growing up on the north side of Chicago, 5'10", running a 4.8 40, I wasn't getting off the bench. And my sister was doing acting, and you know what? There were a lot of women that do acting, and there were not a lot of men that did it. And what
you
do you
like
do?
The numbers,
and you like that. The odds were in my favor. She said you should try this out, and Joan Cusack was like, hey, this is fun. You should try this out, and I did that for a while, and ended up meeting my wife through the career.
Was she established at that point? So you're similar in age to me. So late 80s.
She was 4 years old. She had just done 16 Candles. And with the neck brace, that character.
And I always picture her. Unfortunately for her, I still picture her with the neck brace at all times.
It's one of her. Well, she totally improvised that character in the audition. John got cast in the role as Anthony Michael Hall's nerdy Fred. He said, my sister's hilarious. Like, well, and John Hughes, I guess the story was, well, what can she do? And she just came in and improvised this character with a neck brace, just doing stuff, walking around. He said, all right, they wrote the scenes for her.
Was John around or Piven? Were those guys, or were they previously involved in?
Yeah, they were older than I was as well. So
this was the Steppenwolf Theater?
This was the Piven Theater Workshop. So, and then out of college, then I did some stuff with the Steppenwolf Theater in Chicago, Second City, and then we went out
And in Hollywood, did a sitcom with Jenny McCarthy on NBC for a season, did a movie with William Shatner and Eric McCormick called Free Enterprise. That was before Eric had done Will and Grace. In fact, Eric got Will and Grace while we were shooting the movie. He was an unknown, and Shatner had not done Boston Legal yet at that point. So, and then after that, a movie with Emilio Estevez and Charlie Sheen. But it was the movie Free Enterprise that got it screened at the LA Film Festival. And afterwards, in the wrap party, these two 20-something guys in these flannel shirts come up to Shatner, pull him aside and say, "Will we talk to you for a second?" He comes back and said, "What was that about?" He goes, "Well, these guys want me to be the spokesman for some .com thing." I said, "What are they going to do?" They can't pay me. They're going to give me stock options. It was Priceline.com. They saw the movie.
Wow.
They were so amused by his performance in the movie. They said, "Hey, you want to be the spokesman for Priceline.com?" He's like, "Whatever it is, sure. I don't care. I'm free."
That turned out okay for him.
It did.
I think.
It worked out.
So what's it like? So you're out there, you're trying to make it as an actor, and you're cast with William Shatner. Dramatic.
Yeah.
Does he talk that way in person with
He
those
does.
long pauses?
He does. And you know what? He's actually a very humble, funny, down-to-earth guy. If you try to talk to him about Star Trek, it was like that. You ever see that Saturday Night Live skit? Get a life, people. It's like that.
Stop asking me about Star Trek.
Exactly. If you talk to him about the Dodgers, horses, sports, opens right. Oh yeah. Let me talk. Oh God, yeah. You know, he would be really into it. Really, really nice guy. Really down-to-earth guy. And yeah, it was cool. It was a lot of fun. But for me personally, I just didn't enjoy, the industry. It's just, I could never enjoy myself. You're doing a movie or you're doing a sitcom or whatever, and all you're thinking about is on Monday, I'm looking for another job. My dad was a sportscaster in Chicago. When he passed away in 55 years old in 2001, that's when I said, all right, I'm going to go into this business and follow in his footsteps, and started working in newspapers.
Well, and I sort of buried the lead, which is what I do, but your dad, very famous in Chicago, sport coats too, loud sport coats, even though that was more the 60s, 70s. He kind of kept that sports vibe going with the loud coats.
He brought it back, yeah.
Did he ever say to you earlier, what are you doing in Hollywood? I can open some doors. Why don't you get going in sports?
It was the exact opposite. It was like a Monty Python skit. I always wanted to follow in his footsteps, and he always told me, no, I want bigger and better things for you. He said, the son, in our family, the son always does better than the father. So I'm out in Hollywood going, Dad, I just want to come back and work for a living. No, you're going to stay out there. You're going to be a movie star. You're going to do us proud. No, I'm overstating it a little bit. But, it was, when you grow up in the shadow of somebody who's famous, then you can sort of mistake the notion that fame equals success. So I'm essentially going out there to become a movie star to kind of like make him proud in this weird kind of way. And when he left, then I felt free to follow and to go into this career. And it's worked out ever since. But this is what I've always wanted to do. And
doing the news.
And it's true. And I didn't want to let him down, which is kind of bizarre. Most dads would be like, get the heck out of Hollywood. What are you doing?
This is a screenplay right here. As I'm listening to this story,
Cats
this
in the
is your
Cradle.
screenplay. Rafer Weigel with us in studio. A new addition to the team at Fox 2. He's doing the news, 6 and 10, Monday through Friday. Rafer Weigel, standard spelling for both Rafer and Weigel, of course.
And Martin Kilcoyne.
Standard spelling.
Standard.
Kilborn. I've been here forever. Hey, tell Kilborn to shut up.
How
hey,
long
Kil
have
came.
you been here, by the way?
17 plus years.
That's fantastic.
So grew
you
up
started
here.
in high school.
Correct. Kindergarten, actually. I was
Yeah.
doing the sports report in the corner of the room. Been here since the summer of 1997, and it's been great in terms of the sports that have happened. Been a lot of fun. I'm thinking as a kid, you had to have gone to some of the biggest games because your dad had access. And whether it's, let's see, Cubs.
Jordan.
The Cubs had a couple of big games before we mocked. They were in the
Well,
playoffs.
2 or 3, yeah.
And were you hanging at Wrigley Field, Soldier Field as a kid?
Yeah, that's the thing. As you know, in this business, it's not a 9-to-5 job. So if I wanted to spend time with him, I had to go with him on the job. We would go to, the United Center, so we were there for all 6 Bulls championships. I had to go with him to Soldier Field. I went with him, for the Bears Super Bowl down in New Orleans. Wrigley, Comiskey, U.S. Cellular. So that was essentially where I grew up, and I wanted to do that for a living because it's a fun place to go to work, and so I have a lot of fond memories. But as you know, when you cover sports for a living, it's a little different. It kind of takes your fandom away a little bit, not in a bad way, but you know what I'm talking about. You don't pay as much attention to the names on the front of the jerseys as the back of the jerseys, and I enjoyed being a fan, and so I wanted to get into news because, well, I just feel like it's more my path, my speed. But it's nice to be able to root for a team blindly and not know, well, you know what, that guy's kind of a jerk, so or that guy's a great. It's nice to not know how the sausage is made all the time.
I've talked about neighbor Bill, one of my neighbors, and if I'm over there, we're watching the baseball game will come on. And he's just an upbeat, optimistic guy. And anytime a player comes to the plate at bat, he said, "Oh, he seems like a neat guy." Every guy. "Oh, he seems like a terrific guy." And I'm over there going, boy, he just seems like he'd be the nicest fellow on the team. And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, this kid, oh, he seems like a wonderful personality. It's like you said, not only I don't want to know, they don't want to know.
Ignorance can be bliss when it comes to being a sports fan sometimes.
So you then got into broadcasting. You got out of Hollywood. You started doing television, and you end up at CNN. You were with Robin Meade on Headline News. Tell us about that experience.
Well, I started freelancing in San Diego as a morning show news reporter, and then Sacramento news, and then Robin Meade did the sports for her on that show. She was a wonderful, wonderful woman, and it was a great show. Her, Bob, myself, we had a lot of fun on that show, and we could, every year the ratings went up. It was just, I had a chance eventually from that to go back to Chicago and take over my dad's job essentially and follow in his footsteps. So I took it and left to go to Chicago to do that. But Robin is, she really taught me a lot. I mean, Sandy Miller reminds me of Robin a lot. They have that same sort of kind of that warmth, Midwest, kind of natural, just, inner and outer beauty. I know that sounds a little, like I'm phony, but it's true. They really are. They really are those type of people.
And I've said that to people. Sandy Miller's somebody you could have a beer with, you go to the baseball game with, and what you see on TV is what you get.
Exactly.
Which, as you may have figured out being in Hollywood and other places, it's not always the case. We'll take a quick break. Who better to do Hollywood headlines and the birthday challenge with than the guy who worked with William Shatner and worked with Jenny McCarthy? Rafer Weigel hanging with us here on KTRS. A reminder, tomorrow, Field Trip Friday.